the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We got through 27, is that right? We got through 30? We accepted the easement? We did? Yeah, okay, we did. There we go. Okay, we'll be starting with Article 31. And Article 35 has been withdrawn. That's 30.
Not yet. The next one.
All right.
Yeah, that one.
Why am I not finding it? Oh, there it is. Okay, Article 31 is as printed in the warrant. It has been moved and seconded by the Ways and Means Committee to see if the town will vote to amend Article 5, Authorities and Commissions and Committees, by adding 2 non-voting associate commissioners to the Conservation Commission. Who's speaking on this? Eileen Coleman, please. Town Conservation Administrator.
Hi, I'm not sure if you needed words. I think it's actually pretty clear by what's in the warrant and in the backup. We're just proposing to add up to two associate members. They would be non-voting. We've actually had associate members 3 times in the past several years. We just wanted to, the previous town clerk just pointed out to us that in order to tidy things up, we should make this a formal amendment to the bylaws so that they're recognized. It does mention in the backup that there was a note from town council just pointing out that if we wanted these people to vote under any circumstances, we would have to make a more substantial change. But that's not what we're proposing at this time. These are purely non-voting members. They're like commissioners in training.
Bylaw Review Committee. Ms. Neufeld, please.
Thank you.
Phyllis Neufeld, GBRC. We voted in favor 5-0-0.
Thank you. Anybody else take a position on this? Okay, we'll open it up for discussions. Any questions, comments? Mr. Rutfield.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Alex Rutfield, Precinct 5. So I'm just wondering, what is the purpose of having these people? Like, what insight do they give that the commission couldn't otherwise get? That you think these people are, I don't want to sound condescending, but important enough to kind of formalize having them?
Well, the formality is really just to clear up the bylaws so that so that we're 100% in compliance. And the reason for having them is, as I said, they're considered sort of commissioners in training. Sometimes it's useful to have extra opinions because they're welcome to weigh in on discussions, but they're not allowed to vote. This serves as a nice way for them to learn the ropes if somebody just is thinking that they might like to be a commissioner, but they're not sure if they want to make the commitment. This is a sort of a little bit low stakes way for them to actually figure out what it is we do, what the commitment is like, without actually having to be in attendance at every single meeting and be a voting member.
Anything? Roger. Mr. Riggs, please.
Roger Riggs, Precinct 3. Which way should I read this in terms of, are these self-selected or are they appointed by the Select Board?
In the same way that the commissioners are selected, they're appointed by the Select Board. Typically, we either look for volunteers, or these are people who come to us and say, hey, I'm interested in what the commission does. And as I said, this just, if we don't have a space, if we don't have a place for a commissioner at that time, they can slot right in.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. DeBona.
Good evening, Jeff DeBona, Precinct 3. My question is, why do we need to add them on as junior unofficial commissioners? If they want to join, why couldn't they just attend meetings? Before I joined the zoning board, I attended meetings for about 6 months just to see what they were doing. You know, you can even watch online. If they're not a voting member, they don't really need to be there unless they want to talk with the commission after. What's the advantage to this?
The advantage is, I suppose, there's a couple of things. It forms a sort of minor commitment on their part. We don't have people really knocking down our door to necessarily become new commissioners. So this is, we find this is a nice way to get people to be somewhat committed, but without having a full-time commitment, and while they're learning the ropes. So yes, of course, they could absolutely attend, but this way they can weigh in, and their opinion has a little bit more weight.
Anything additional? Is that Mr. Brooks up there, hiding underneath a hat? Can't recognize people with wearing hats.
Hi, Jason Brooks, Precinct 6. I'm just wondering, are there any requirements to be appointed for this, or can kind of anybody sign up for it and kind of like a interview sort of thing?
Anybody can connect with me and with the commission if they to express an interest. I mean, we do prefer, ideally, that somebody has a background that would be particularly useful for us. So somebody might have a background in engineering, or in stormwater design, or in something to do with wildlife. Those are really ideal, but that doesn't mean that it's essential.
Anything additional? Mr. Davison.
Doug Davison, Precinct 2. Did the Select Board take a position? This is an appointed commission under them, right?
Did the Select Board take? I do not believe they did.
Okay, thank you.
No, we didn't come to you with that. Sorry.
Anything more? Seeing none, let's put this to a vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you. All those opposed? It's a clear majority. The article passes. Article 32 has been moved and seconded by the Ways and Means Committee, and it is as printed in the warrant, to see if the town will authorize the Select Board to file a home rule petition with the Great and General Court to allow us to have hybrid meetings. We'll let them make their presentation first. Bylaw Review Committee. Do you have her amendment? Yeah. That's not what we're acting on. We're acting on the motion as written. If you wish to amend it, you have to amend it.
Motion to amend from the GBRC.
Second.
Well, now tell us what you're amending and why you want to do it.
You want me to?
So this is, without speaking to the article itself, this amendment is to basically give town meeting more control and flexibility over the hybrid town meeting that we voted on in September. The home rule petition part of this is basically housekeeping. You're supposed to vote on both at the same time. So if those of you who were here in September, you'll remember that we voted on hybrid town meeting, and then the next one was the home rule petition, which is us sending language to the state to have them approve it. So we already approved it for the town. This is just what we're sending to the state. Now in September, there was an issue and it didn't pass. And that issue was that there was extra language added into it, which was a mistake, that encompassed boards, committees, commissions as well. Whereas we had all discussed it was just for town meeting. So understandably, people were not happy about that. It got voted down. We said, hey, we're gonna bring this back and do it the right way so that it reflects what the original article was, and then we'll send it to the state. Now, in the article we passed, we specify it's only 15 people, right? But if we take that out, which is what our amendment does, then that gives us control and the ability later to change that number up or down, however we want to, without getting additional permission from the state. So if we pass this amendment and the home rule petition that's in the warrant, then that would mean if we as a town and town meeting want to make changes down the line to how hybrid was passed and is reflected in our bylaws, we could do that without doing this double home rule petition and asking permission from the state. Hopefully that makes sense. So we're amending it to take out the number so that it's giving town meeting more flexibility on what to do. But what is actually in place will remain 15.
Thank you. Mr. Sinesi, did Rules Committee have a, well, actually, you probably don't have a, go ahead and say what you wish to say on it. You're not speaking on the amendment yet, but that's all right.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Rules Committee voted 3 in favor and 3 against on this. Do you want the rationale, or? Why don't we wait a minute? Let's wait a minute, Mr. Sinesi. Oh, no. We did not vote on the amendment. My mistake. I should not have called on you yet. Okay, we have this amendment. It's on the floor. Is there any discussion on the amendment? Mr. Eiler.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. John Eiler, Precinct 6. So this is going to be a little confusing here. I'm against this amendment because I think Mr. Sinesi in our earlier meeting had, in fact, you may recall the original bylaw change was suggesting 1/3 for the number that could be remote, which caused a lot of issues in my mind in terms of the workability of it. Mr. Sinesi has suggested an amendment to bring that down to 15, which I think was critical in terms of making the hybrid meeting a viable thing to do, and I thought was a good compromise to make it workable. So for instance, we could imagine 15 people tiled up there on the screen, seeing a number that's, 1/3 of the body would be a little less feasible. Later on, when we talk about electronic voting, you'll see, if you could see 15 up there, the moderator could quickly judge how many yeses and nos there are without electronic voting, for example. So for a lot of reasons, I think that was an important compromise. So I specifically would not want to suggest that we make it easy to change that number to something larger. That was fundamental to what it was. I would argue in general, home rule petitions should, I would say, should mirror the language of the actual bylaws closely as possible, rather than trying to modify it, expand it, allow for other possibilities. I think it should mirror it exactly as possible. And in fact, I'm going to suggest an amendment after this that does just that, to mirror it more precisely, rather than introducing new terms such as communications platform, mentioning various ways to connect, none of which are in the bylaw as it was passed. So I would suggest not agreeing to this change, and I will be proposing amendment after this is voted on, I guess.
Thank you, Mr. Eiler. Mr. Sinesi.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Adam Sinesi, Precinct 1. I also serve as the Rules Committee Chair. I'm having a tough time with the amendment. I'm having a tough time with the amendment for a couple of reasons. One, I had given a lot of the proponents for this my word that I would support this if it came to town meeting. At this point, I feel like the compromises that were made of a cap at 15 was a sufficient compromise. And I sort of feel like things have been changed here. And I don't think it was done for malicious reasons, but I just feel like the rules of the game have changed. And if they were to have changed and you were bringing something to town meeting, now I'm speaking as the Rules Committee Chair, not on behalf of my committee, but as an individual. I personally feel that you should have reached out to us, brought it back to the committee, if you were going to change and make an amendment to what we were doing. So, I mean, I have to vote against this amendment. That's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Mr. Glantz.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Nolan Glantz, Precinct 1. Respectfully, I completely disagree. And maybe after or during this conversation, if we can put up the language that we voted on, that's the current bylaw from the last meeting, that is simply waiting for the home rule petition to be approved, because whatever that says, that's the current law. Once this is approved, regardless of what this says, if this says 15, if this says different than 15, that law. So if we take out 15, that 15 is still in our bylaw. And in order for that to change, it would have to come back to us. We would have to decide to change it. If 15 is too much, we could go down to 10. If 15 is too little, we can go up to 20, or whatever we decide to do, independent of the home rule petition. So I'm very much in favor of removing that specificity from the home rule petition, because if we decide to change it, then we're going to have to wait for the home rule petition to change it. I think that we should not give the state that power over us. I think we should keep that flexibility. And that's my 2 cents. Thank you. So maybe language. Sorry, can you put up the language from what the actual law is?
We don't have it available at this moment.
Ms. Priest, can you find it and put it up while we're talking about it?
We don't have it.
I don't have access to the town server from here.
It's on the internet, no? Is it not public? Isn't it on the town's website, the bylaws?
The problem is that what is on the website is the original article. It does not show the amendment to make it 15. So we can't show you the exact proper language at this point in time. So it's a clerical error on what got posted.
Okay.
Mr. DeBona.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Rich DeBona, Precinct 3. I have a question around the communication platform. It lists everything up there.
We're not up to that point yet, Mr. DeBona. We're only talking about whether we should change.
I'm trying to understand the language of it. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Am I okay?
Is that? All right, sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So it talks about smartphone, video, audio, etc. It sounds like it's way too broad, and I'm not sure that's going to be workable for us. I just like to know more about why they selected that language.
Ms. Huntoon.
Yes, thank you. So with the home rule petition, like I was saying, the amendment is to be more broad to give us more flexibility. So it's not going to change that we've already put hybrid meeting into our bylaws. This is just saying that we can change them as technology updates. So it's to our benefit, whether people believe it or not, to leave that flexibility, because if we want to change it down the line without having the broad language in it, then we will have to go through the process of doing an article for the bylaws and a home rule petition. I mean, I know there are going to be people here who are more comfortable having that extra, barrier in place, and that's your choice. I just think that having more flexibility for us, because we would need to vote on this if this is what we wanted to implement. We would have to vote to put that into the bylaw. We already voted on the language for hybrid. So this is just saying if we want to amend that, we can bring that back and everyone can vote on it if we want to change it to smartphone, and we wouldn't have to bring it back to the state. We could just decide amongst ourselves. Does that make sense?
I would like to ask for a comment from town council on the language and what it means.
She's going to explain it better than I can.
So the language as presented requires, in my opinion, the town to provide users to connect via all of those things, as opposed to the more general term, which I believe was used in the bylaw, which was video conferencing platforms. So this requires the town, in my opinion, this communication platform will allow users to connect via all of those things.
Mr. DeBona, do you have a follow-up?
I think she covered it great. Thank you.
She knows it better than I do. She was going to explain it better than me.
Mr. Rutfield.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Alex Rutfield, Precinct 5. So I do generally support this amendment. It sounds like if we didn't have this and we wanted to change the number later down the line, we would have to have a majority vote to change the 15 higher or lower, and then have another article to send in the modified home rule petition, which just sounds like additional bureaucracy that we don't really need. I would like some clarification, though. Do we have like a legal opinion of if the state's going to be okay with us making it a little more vague in terms of the numbers?
Do you wish to comment on that?
Yeah.
It's not going to be up to the AG, isn't it?
Yeah. This actually will be up to the state legislature with comments from the Attorney General's office and the open meeting law people and all of that, in addition to House Counsel and Senate Counsel.
Ms. Hurton, please. Betsy. Betsy, please.
Betsy Hughes, Precinct 7. This is a point of clarification. What is platform chat? I've never heard that term before.
we called it platform, added the word platform, because we know on Zoom you can use chat, but we didn't know about all the different ways that people could communicate, and we didn't want anyone to think that we were putting in ways to communicate that was any different than the platform we were using. Okay, so it strictly stands to whatever platform we decide to use. If this passes and we do hybrid, that's the chat that people could put questions into.
Thank you.
Mr. Miller online has a question.
Yes, I just want to say all this amendment is doing is asking the state just to allow Burlington to do hybrid meetings. That's all. Currently, it's not allowed. So we're just asking the state, please let us hold hybrid meetings. How we hold hybrid meetings is up to us. And that's what's in our bylaw. And any change to that has to be done by us, this body. So it's not adding anything, it's not subtracting anything. It's just asking the state, please allow us to do hybrid. We'll figure out how to do it in our own bylaw. And it's this body who worries about the bylaw. So let's not overcomplicate things, please.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Mr. Cormier, then we'll get to Ms. Asher. And then Mr. Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. John Cormier, Precinct 6. Just full disclosure, I wasn't really in favor of the hybrid system to begin with, but given what was initially there, I think was a deep concern, if everyone remembers, as to how many people we're going to allow to be part of a hybrid system to begin with. So if we remove what was kind of viewed for some of the people of those concerns was to kind of minimize it. Otherwise, if you leave it that vague, you could literally have, you know, what, a couple dozen, 3 dozen, 4 dozen people. And now you're going to wind up having issues, you know, with anything else that goes on. So if we were set the maximum, it would seem to me that there would be at least a compromise of sense for the people that really didn't want the hybrid to begin with. The other issue I have is with the communications platform, and I think it goes to kind of the argument that you're making as far as not dialing it in specific as far as the amount of members so we can sit there and change it, which to me is kind of absurd to begin with that argument, because how many times do we want to sit there and change the amount of people that we're going to allow to be attending as far as the hybrid? You know, to me, if we set a number, then we set a number. I can't envision we're going to keep coming back 1, 2, 3 years, and we're going to amend it to 20, and we're going to amend it to 25, and we're going to amend it, we're going to constantly keep on changing that number. We're going to go through the same argument as to whether this is really a valid way to be proceeding for the taxpayers of this town. I'm not going to rehash some of the arguments that we all had, but the same goes for the communications platform. Now you're getting specific with the platform. And God knows 3, 4, 5 years from now, all the changes in communications that we've seen over in just the past 5, 10 years. So we're going to have to come back and we're going to have to modify that as well. So you're kind of playing both sides of the fence here as far as one for the flexibility for the meeting members and how many people can and can't attend hybrid, but then you want to get specific with the communications platform and the language that you have currently. So I'm kind of a little bit confused as to both why you're kind of playing both sides like that. I personally, again, full disclosure, I never liked, you know, the idea of a hybrid meeting. So this to me only kind of solidifies, you know, why I don't want this, you know, to happen. There's just, it's just too vague, and we just constantly want to kind of hop, skip, and jump, you know, over some of these issues in order to accommodate for who? 1, 2, 3 people? To me, it's just absurd.
Am I on? Yeah, there we go. All right, so this breaks down into basically kind of a black and white decision. If you vote yes on the amendment, then you are saying that you want town meeting to have flexibility without having to come back and do a home rule petition down the line, maybe 10, 20 years down the line. You want to make it easier for town meeting to change it. If you vote no, you're saying you want to lock us in at 15, and if we want to try changing it down the line, we do it with another home rule petition. So it's a two-step process again. So that's really, in simple terms, that's what it comes down to. If you want to keep us locked in to what the article is currently, then you can vote no on the amendment. If you want to give us the flexibility and make it easier for us to change it, not necessarily in 1, 2, or 3 years, I think all of us would get sick of that. But further down the line, just thinking in the future, circumstances change, technology changes, you know, the sentiment of this body changes. That's where we're looking at. But either way, it's everyone's decision to make. Oh, did you?
Yeah. The communications platform.
Excuse me.
Oh, sorry.
One person per committee.
Sorry.
You want to just whisper in my ear?
Ms. Huntoon, did you wish to speak?
No, we're good.
Ms. Asher? And then we'll come over to Mr. Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Kate Asher, Precinct 4. I just wanted to get clarification from the Town Council. As I understand it, the current bylaw for hybrid states video conferencing platform only. And my question is, does that mean that any attendees that are attending remotely must show their face via video?
It says, excuse me, it says video conferencing platform. Doesn't say only, but it doesn't say anything else. So that's the methodology.
If I may follow up,
Go ahead.
Moderator. So that's my concern. I don't think it's so much with the number, although I recognize the technology limitations. It's that here I'm seeing audio, I'm seeing platform chat, and what I don't like is not seeing who's actually attending.
Go ahead.
So we are under the impression that actually that is something that would fall to the Rules Committee to determine, and Mr. Sinesi can obviously speak to this if he wants to elaborate, but the Rules Committee would be, you know, setting a rule for everyone has to be visible, your camera has to be on. So I think, you know, that's something we can narrow down using our different committees and members and what they are here to do.
Mr. Bell.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Roger Bell, Precinct 6. Again, as a disclosure, I was not in favor originally of the hybrid. I did vote to approve the 15 member. What I'm concerned about here is that you're going to make it easy because you want more people to go hybrid, so you want to put this in place just so you could bring this back to this body. And I would prefer not to have this amendment. So if we want to approve a larger hybrid, it would come back as a full warrant article and not have to go through this debate all over again every time this comes to the floor. I'm sorry that I don't think this is the way that we should approach this at all. I'm not in favor of this amendment. I'd like to go with the 15 we have, and if you want to change it, then you come back next time with another warrant to change the numbers and not make it so easy that you could keep doing this on a regular basis.
Mr. Tate, and then we'll get to Mr. Murphy.
Thank you. David Tate, Precinct 5. I'm against the amendment, just from the standpoint that, to Mrs. Sinesi's point, we have these subcommittees to review everything and make sure everything is worked out, and they agree with the language and they make a recommendation to us, the body. The fact that this is now being changed without their oversight, I think alone is worth either postponing or waiting and not voting these changes here until they've had the opportunity to properly review it and make a decision or make a recommendation to us.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Murphy.
Behind you.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Chris Murphy, Precinct 5. So it seems to me the one thing that people now have an issue with, because town council said the way this is written, it basically reads that we must make all those other, ways of attending available, which I don't think is your intention. I'm assuming your intention was just list as many different ways that we might ever do remote meetings and throw them in here just so they're there. So what I think we could simplify this if we just go back to wording that says video conferencing and get rid of the specification of 15 days, because I do agree with that. That way we don't have to do the home rule petition again. We take control of it and we can make it whatever we need to, right? Anybody who thinks that we're not going to do more hybrid town meetings as we move on is got their head in the sand. I mean, I think of all the kids who are in their 20s and teens and 30s right now would be horrified to think that this is how you have to operate town meeting. They're all going to be connecting remotely. We need to get ahead of this. But let's just make it so that we don't specify anything other than a video platform, and then we'll deal with the details of it later, and everything gets voted by us. So why is everybody so concerned about debates or whatever? Every decision we make going forward will be made by this group. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Ms. Simon.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Martha Simon, Precinct 3. I support this amendment. It seems pretty clear to me that with this amendment, we will continue, this body will continue to be in charge of whether there continues to be the 15 that are established in the original article. If we want to change platforms, it will be up to the body. This amendment is just so that we don't have to go back to the state legislature. I would appreciate it if somebody, maybe our town council, could explain what a home rule petition is and why do we even have to send a home rule petition for this article? Some articles we don't. This article we do. And it's a very long, complicated process. And I think that I don't see the need to do that for this issue. And if you could please explain what home rule petitions are and why we need to do it for this one, because I think then it might explain why this amendment is being proposed to make it less complicated for our town to make decisions for ourselves. Thank you.
Ms. Mead, please.
So actually, home rule petitions make it easier to make laws for your town, for yourself. So home rule petitions are a special legislation which apply only to particular communities. And in fact, it happens that this community created town meeting by adopting a home rule petition. And so the only way to change the way the town meeting operates is to change the home rule petition and adopt a bylaw.
Is there a question there?
The process, it can be 6 months to 2 years. It depends on your legislator.
You've already spoken, Mr. Glantz. You have to wait. Yes, sir, up at the back. Excuse me. Mr. Brooks.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Jason Brooks, Precinct 6. Does this open the door for changing the in-person quorum? And what does that do if the technology fails? If we have a quorum with enough people that are online and in person, and then the system goes down?
Ms. Huntoon?
So no, it does not change the requirement for an in-person quorum. What we passed as the bylaw back in September is still only 15 people can attend remotely. And we as a body would have to make some big changes to change the in-person quorum. I'm not even sure how that would work. But undoing this just gives us the ability down the line to debate amongst ourselves and draft a new article and change it to 10, 20, 25, whatever it is. But whoever's drafting that article at that time, whatever point in the future, that is something they would need to be cognizant of and work around and work within this body to make sure that it works for how our process is and working within the rules we have and the current bylaws. So that would be a lot of work, and I would not anticipate that going very far anytime soon. But as it stands, no, this wouldn't change that.
Mr. Flynn?
Hi, TJ Flynn, Precinct 2. Be honest, I'm not a huge fan of the specific devices and platforms listed out in the amendment. I honestly think that is limiting going forward. As town council just said, this is a 6-month to 2-year process. So I assume that we don't want to go through this again. We want to get it right the first time. When there are new technologies available, I think the more general video conferencing platform is better language than listing out everything specific. Obviously, it's up to Precinct 2 members, but if my hologram wants to join this town meeting in 15 years, I don't want to go back through and do a new home rule petition in order to allow that.
Ms. Saltman? Mr. DeBona, you've already spoken on this once. Are you sure on that? Ms. Saltman, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Myrna Saltman, Precinct 2. For the education of those who may be new to this august body, even though this is May, I would like to read something from the town clerk that I think has impact on how we vote, if I may. Find my glasses. I asked about how dates are determined for town meeting, because that's what this is about for those people who have to travel or can't get a babysitter or may be ill. And I think this is important to put into the whole composition. 2026, for that year, dates have not been formally confirmed yet, but we generally follow a consistent schedule with annual town meeting sessions beginning on the second Monday in May. Then town meeting is continued and typically held on the third Monday in September and January. These dates may shift slightly to avoid conflicts with federal or religious holidays. I bring the proposed dates to the Select Board in July to be finalized and included in the official town calendar, meaning we know a whole year in advance when town meeting's going to meet, so people can make arrangements to be here. Thank you. I am against this.
All right, Mr. DeBona, I'll let you talk.
Behind you.
Hi, Jeff DeBona, Precinct 3. My question is kind of a follow-up to what Mr. Brooks said as far as the in-person quorum. So the question you answered was about the 15-person. The 15-person, you're taking it off with the amendment. So right now, if this were to pass, and this went through the legislature, it doesn't say the amount that we need to have as an in-person quorum. So we wouldn't have an in-person quorum if too many people sign up, correct?
No.
There's a possibility of it.
No, because.
Excuse me.
Sorry.
Everyone comes back to the moderator. It's my job, man.
All right. I respect that.
Okay.
All right.
Go ahead, Ms. Huntoon.
All right. So, no, because we already voted on hybrid with the bylaw that's going into our bylaws, and it's capped at 15. And it has an in-person quorum. So if we wanted to change that, we would have to come back and vote on it. And having seen what we've done over the last year, I really would not expect us to move past 15 anytime soon. But no, regardless of whether this goes through, it's 15. It'll be 15 until we actively change it as a group.
But I thought the amendment was to remove.
Mr. DeBona,
I'm
the
sorry.
same rule applies to you.
I'm
If
sorry.
you have a follow-up, please ask.
May I follow up, please?
Please.
Through the moderator, this amendment is asking to remove the 15. So how is it capped at 15?
Ms. Huntoon.
So it's capped at 15 because there's two pieces to this, and we already voted and capped it at 15 in the piece that goes into our bylaws. This is the piece that goes to the state to allow us to have our bylaw. And this doesn't cap it at 15 because there was a thought that if we want to change it, we want to just be able to change it in our bylaws without going to the state. But it is 15. This does not change what we voted on in September at all.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Pearson, please.
Mr. Moderator, Monty Pearson, Precinct 3. I believe that some of us are uncomfortable with the way the platform has various video and audio and smartphone, and what are we going to be connected to, and what are we going to limit it to, and will we be able to get a platform that does everything? So I believe it would be much simpler if the wording of the article said this communications platform will allow users to connect via an internet connection and a supported device without mentioning any specific things, so that over the course of time the technology can change and we don't have to change the bylaw every time something new shows up. So I move that. Is there a second? I'm making
Amendment to the amendment.
I'm offering an amendment striking the words from video through the word using. So connect via an internet connection. So we just take out all the specific terms that are how people connect to the platform, because how people connect to the platform can and will change. And we do not want to have language in here that puts us in a situation where we have to buy a communications platform that's really expensive because it doesn't, we need something that covers all kinds of things that happen to be an audio device. We don't need to have in here a restriction that says you must have all of these things. If we have an amendment like that, then what will happen is that all we have to do is provide an internet connection and with a supportive device, and what that is can change over the next century, and probably will. Whereas now we're locked into some terms that could become a problem.
Thank you, Mr. Pearson. Mr. Eiler, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. John Eiler, Precinct 6. Thank you very much, Monty. You virtually described the amendment that I'm proposing. So I think many of the things I'm hearing here are related to the fact that the home rule petition is trying to do more than the bylaw said and is using different words. The proposed amendment I have essentially uses the same words as in the bylaw and doesn't try to expand on it in any way, avoids the issue that Ms. Mead mentioned with the fact that you have a word that says will means you have to do it. It's not providing options. You must do that. So this is causing a lot of problems because the wording was changed. So, Mr. Moderator, I don't know if we need to finish the current amendment before I can propose mine. Okay, so I'll propose mine once we finish with the current one, but I believe it will cover what you're asking for, Mr. Pearson.
Thank you, Mr. Eiler. Ms. Santoon.
Yes, so we support that language. So I'm not sure rules-wise whether we would still vote on this or, vote this down and then vote on what Mr. Eiler's put. But we support that language and we feel that it accomplishes what we're trying to accomplish. So no problem with that. It's just a matter of procedurally, I'm not sure how that goes.
Well, we're going to have a problem with, as you're trying to put 15, take 15 out, and Mr. Eiler's going to want to put it back in.
I've been told that we support Monty's suggestion then.
All right. How can we do this neatly?
Either way, it doesn't. Point of order? It doesn't matter to me.
Go ahead, point of order. Mr. Riggs?
Like the first project happened, so.
Thank you.
Do we withdraw it?
It's not. Roger Riggs, Precinct 3. Hello? Thank you. Roger Riggs, Precinct 3. Still no. Roger Riggs, Precinct 3. I believe if you withdraw the current amendment and the second, then you go back to the primary. And that would, to me, that would be the most expeditious way to back out of where we are right now, if that's acceptable.
Just withdraw. We can't just withdraw it. It's on the floor. It's been debated. The way to, I guess what I would suggest is that we vote to defeat this, that we then bring up Mr. Eiler's and go through his language should the bylaw review committee wish to make an amendment to Mr. Eiler's amendment, then we can live with that, okay? So, Mr. Pearson, if you would be so kind as to withdraw your motion. Okay, so we have to vote on Monty's. Any discussion on Mr. Pearson's? Go ahead.
Hello, Monty Pearson.
You're not recognized, Monty. Please.
He wasn't on record with his said.
Thank you, Nolan Glantz, Precinct 1. Point of information. I thought we can't amend an amendment while we're in the middle of debating and voting on the amendment. We have to vote that's either up or down. Then if we vote it down, we can do a new one. Even if we vote in favor of it, we can then amend the new version of this that we've amended. So Mr. Eiler's amendment can proceed, or Mr. Pearson's amendment can proceed after we vote either yes or no. Either way, it can be further amended.
We can amend an amendment should we wish to. So that's allowed. What I am trying to suggest is a way to make this work relatively smoothly, because I know what is in Mr. Eiler's motion. I understand that. It covers what Monty is looking for. It fixes a few other issues with language, and it asks to, it includes the 15 voters. Am I correct? I got this right so far, John?
Mine includes the 15.
All right. So if we go to his amendment, it gives us an article to argue all of these things out on, as opposed to trying to go through amendment to amendment to amendment. So that's what I am suggesting this body do as a means of moving this article forward. I am not cutting out anything we can do or would propose. Does that make sense? Mr. Pearson.
Monty Pearson, Mr. Moderator, Monty Pearson, Precinct 3. What you just said supports my instinct, which is that I do not support the idea of putting 15 into this. It's unnecessary to do that for this. I was trying to change this particular amendment in a certain way that would make it more palatable to other people, but I would oppose putting 15 back in. So Mr. Eiler's amendment isn't the same as mine, and so I think we should just vote on mine, up or down, and then we can go and John can make his amendment, and we can vote up or down on that one.
Well, then I need yours in writing, please, with a signature. Per our bylaws, zoning and general bylaw articles need to be written.
Okay. All right. Here you go.
Oh, thank you.
The motion before us is to remove the words video, audio, smartphone, and platform chat and using. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. That's the motion that is now in front of us. Mr. Moran.
Right here.
Motion to withdraw the amendment. Steve, thing 4. Motion to withdraw the amendment.
Only the maker of the amendment can do that. Sorry, Steve.
I tried.
Only Mr. Pearson can do that. Okay, is there any further questions on this? Seeing none? All those in favor? We're voting on Monty's proposal, Monty's amendment, which is to remove the words video, audio, smartphone, and platform chat and using. Remove it from the amendment. The 15 members is not touched. Yes, it was. Point of information, I heard someone.
All right, thank you, Mr. Moderator. Alex Rockfield, Precinct 5. So just to clarify, we're changing it to, Monty's proposal is this communications platform will allow users to connect via an internet connection, exactly what they just put up.
That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Collins, please.
Hi, Dan Collins, Precinct 6. I'm still confused. Are we still voting on the original amendment language involving the 15 members in addition to removing the video, audio, smartphone, et cetera?
We are voting on changing the amendment.
No, I understand that, but so we're changing the amendment to include this new
new wording from Monty.
Okay.
After that, if we will go back to discussing the original amendment.
So we're amending the amendment.
We're
not
amending the amendment. Correct.
The article. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Point of information. We're not voting on the article, we're just voting on changing the wording, correct?
We are voting on changing the wording of the amendment. We've never gotten to the actual article yet. I heard someone move the question. It's not debatable. All those in favor of moving the question? Thank you. All those opposed? It's a clear 2/3. Now we'll vote on Monty's amendment. All those in favor? Thank you. All those opposed? Let's try this once more. All those in favor, please stand. We're not counting yet. We're not counting yet. Hold on. Not yet. Okay. Now sit down, please. All those opposed, please stand. It looks like the article fails. Now we are back to discussing the amendment to the article. Mr. Prue.
Mike Prue, Precinct 4. Move the question.
Okay. The question has been moved on the amendment. Yes, Mr. Webb. This is the original amendment that is in front of you. Okay, everyone clear on what we're voting on? We are voting on the amendment as presented by the General Bylaw Review Committee. That is up in front of you now.
Bill, you don't vote on move the question.
Okay, we're still on, right, we're moving the question, on moving the question. All those in favor of moving the question, please. Thank you. Opposed? It's clear 2/3. The question has been moved. Brings us to a vote on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment, please raise your hand. All those opposed? The amendment fails. I heard a point of information. Mr. Kelly?
So with that amendment down, what's in front of us is the original article.
Correct.
I wonder if we could get some clarification here. I think there's some confusion. There's two documents that are being discussed. One is the Chapter 686 of the Acts of 1970, which is under the jurisdiction of the state legislature. The other is our own bylaw. Two separate documents. Do I have that correct?
Yes, you do.
Do we have a bylaw that applies to this?
It was voted in September.
The bylaw was passed last September.
So
that is not on the table.
No, but there are two documents covering this subject matter.
Right. There's our bylaw.
Right.
Which isn't here, which we are not talking about.
Correct. But if you want to change the bylaw, which these people are trying, which the Rules Committee is saying we want to do sometime, no? We never want to change our bylaw?
We may wish to change our bylaw because...
In order to do that, we have to ask the state to give us permission.
Correct.
So asking the state to let us change our charter or how we establish bylaw, we have to petition them, and it's a two-step process. We have to authorize the town to ask the state to give us permission to change our bylaw, to change our charter.
Correct.
And I think what they're asking to do is ask the state to give us permission to change our charter through our bylaw in a one-step process rather than a two-step process.
Not really.
And I know that sounds confusing, and I think that's the problem.
Yes, you are.
It's very confusing.
We have another amendment on the floor from Mr. Eiler. Would you present it, please?
Yes, please. May I speak?
We are amending the original article.
Am I recognized, or?
Does that look like your language, Mr. Eiler?
Yes, am I recognized?
Go ahead, Mr. Eiler.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. John Eiler, Precinct 6. I'm sorry I didn't jump up earlier with this. So there's a few, so this is an amendment of the original article. The changes are as follows. First, there was a typo on select board that was irking me, so I've changed that to 2 words. Everywhere where it said, and then all the other changes are an attempt to make it as much like the bylaw that we passed as possible, because that removes any ambiguity about differences between the two. It removes any issues of trying to make things easier or harder. It removes problems with the word will on new things that were introduced in the original motion. So you'll notice that everywhere where it said electronics communications platform, I've changed it 3 places to video conferencing platform. Those are the exact words that are in the bylaws, so there shouldn't be any confusion. It also goes along with our general idea that we're trying to make this be a video thing. It removes the words that were added to the home rule petition about via video, audio, phone, and chat, those words were never in the bylaw. Remove those to avoid any ambiguity and any additional requirement by having the word will on additional items. So that's why I removed that. So if you love the original bylaw, you'll love this because it's exactly the same. No differences. The point was not to try to have any additional agenda on the home rule petition other than confirming what we said in the bylaw. That's all this amendment does. Thank you.
I need a second, please. Discussion. Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Chris Murphy, Precinct 5. So the one thing, of course, now that's missing, John, right, is the 15. So you're, no, I mean, the whole point of them coming to us tonight was to get rid of that, right? But, okay, so here's my question. If we decide, this body, at some point in the future, we want to jump that to 25, with this, do we still avoid the home petition thing or no? Well, wasn't that the point, is to avoid having to go back and go through what could be a 2-year process because we decide 25 people, not 15, should be able to join our meetings remotely? So that's, I thought, was the main point of this whole thing. So I don't like this as it's written. I like everything about it except it's missing the point that they were trying to go for, which is get a number out of this so that we can make the number anything we want later on. And I understand, yeah,
Come on,
everybody didn't want it.
Stop the crosstalk, please.
So my
Mr. Murphy
point,
has the floor. Please let him speak.
Yeah. So I guess that's part of my problem with it is I don't know why anybody would vote that down. It gives us control. Let's say that enough people in town meetings someday, not today, not next year probably, but at some point we want to jump that number up. We might have to wait 2 years to do it. That makes no sense to me. It makes no sense to me that this body would not realize that that's the way the world is going and that we need to get ahead of this stuff and make things easier for people to join remotely. That's my stance on it. Thank you.
I expected it. Go ahead, Ms. Neufeld.
Phyllis Neufeld, Precinct 5. While I agree wholeheartedly, I would like to have seen us not have to go back. If this is what it's going to take to pass this and get it started, then that's what it's going to take.
Mr. Monaco.
Does it work? Yeah. Testing. Oh, wow. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Frank Monaco, Precinct 4. I just want to clarify what I think is right to make the point. If we take Mr. Eiler's amendment to the main motion and we simply struck the with a maximum of 15 members attending remotely, if we struck that, our bylaw as it stands, once this home rule petition were passed without that language, our bylaw would still limit the maximum to 15 members as it stands. So you don't lose any control. You have all the control in your bylaw, and you can amend your bylaw at will to change that number, I believe, without going back to the state. And that was the whole point. So I agree with Mr. Murphy. I think the 15 was a necessity in order to get this thing somewhere out of the batter's box. But this will not change that maximum if you eliminate that language right now, I believe. If I'm correct, then Mr. Eiler could offer that further elimination if he so chose. Thank you.
Mr. Glantz, and then Mr. Collins.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Nolan Glantz, Precinct 1. I completely agree, Frank and Chris. I was going to try to make that point earlier, which is I know there's people who are strongly in favor of more than 15, and some people who don't want any, or less than 15 would be better. What we heard from town council is it could take as quickly as 6 months, or it could be as long as 2 years. Now, what that says to me is, if we leave the 15 in what we send to the state and not strike it, then that means that if that passes at the state, 6 months from now perhaps, then maybe our next May's meeting might be the first one where we have some remote attendance. And let's say 15 people attend remotely, and let's say we all think it's too many and we want to vote it down to 10, it could take up to 2 years before we can get it down to 10. No, if we leave the 15 in there and we have our first meeting in May with 15 remote attendees, and we all think that's too many at that meeting and it's a bad experience, and we decide as a body that we want to reduce the limit to 10 instead of 15, we would have to wait to go back to the state to get that 15 changed down to 10, and that could take 2 years for us to be able to limit it.
Ms. Ash, are you through, Mr. Glantz?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Kate Asher, Precinct 4. I just wanted to add something new here, that to have a functioning town meeting, if, we just got through COVID, so if we wanted to have a real capacity to join remotely, we'd be able to increase that if we struck that language now.
Point of information. Mr. Prue.
Mike Prue, Precinct 4. We've already voted with the 15 members when Monty's amendment. The 15 members were struck, and so wasn't via video, audio, and phone. So were we going to sit here and keep making amendments and striking the same 15 and voting on it numerous times? We've already voted on it with that.
No, we haven't, Mr. Prue. What we voted on was an amendment to an amendment, and we defeated that.
Right.
So now we have to go back to another amendment, which is what is in front of us now. Yes, a lot of these things we've already discussed, but we have not voted on this specific language, which is what we need to do for a bylaw.
What I'm saying is the specific language was already voted on with Monty's amendment to the amendment, because the amendment had the 15 already struck out of it.
That is correct, Mr. Prue.
So now we're
However, that was in a different amendment. That's gone and dead. That's gone.
All right.
We're not talking about that anymore. We're talking about what's in front of us right now. And yes, you have heard all the arguments about it back and forth. So hopefully we'll have something new. Mr. Connors. The question has been moved. All those in favor of moving the question? Thank you. All those opposed? The motion passes, which brings us to a vote on this amendment to the main motion. Okay? Point of it? Excuse me?
Can you send this down? Oh, wait.
No, we are not. We are voting on the amendment to the main motion.
As presented by the Rules Committee?
No. As presented by Mr. Eiler. The motions by the Rules Committee were defeated. So that gave us the opportunity to discuss another amendment, which was Mr. Eiler's, which is what is in front of us now.
Point of clarification, Rules Committee has brought nothing to town meeting tonight.
This is bylaw committee, bylaw review committee.
You know, I thought I had a chance to blame it on you, Adam. Sorry. Okay. Is everyone clear on what we're doing? Please, I hope so. We are voting on this amendment. You see that the crossouts and the red text? That is what we are voting on. Nothing else. Just those changes. And the question has been moved. All those in favor? Thank you. Opposed? So clear 2/3. The amendment passes, which brings us back to the original language for Article 32, which is now essentially the text of the amendment. But we didn't vote on the whole amendment. We voted on the changes. Okay? So we made the changes. Now we are voting on the resulting text, which is displayed right now. Mr. DeBona.
Here you go.
Jeff DeBona, Precinct 3. This question, I guess, is for Town Council. So if this were to pass tonight, this still would sit in limbo because the state hasn't accepted for town meetings to be hybrid format, correct?
Ms. Mead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The state has adopted one home rule petition from the town of Plymouth that allows them to operate in a hybrid fashion. So it would be up to the legislature to pass this for the town of Burlington. And there's also pending legislation from the town of Lexington.
Ms. Simon. Would you need to use a microphone, Ms. Simon?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Martha Simon, Precinct 3. I would like to have this body to have the opportunity to vote specifically on an amendment that the sentence, that part of the amendment that says a maximum of 15 members attending remotely. We have voted in some cleaned up language, which I really like, that Mr. Eiler promoted. I would still like the opportunity to vote specifically on with a maximum of 15 members attending remotely being struck. I have it written here. I'd like to make that motion to this.
I believe we have already voted on that, Ms. Simon.
We voted on a different one. We voted on changing video.
All right,
audio.
get it up here.
Mr. Moderator?
Get it up here, please. I need it written. Ms. Saltman, you have a question? Excuse me? Here we go.
Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Myrna Saltman, Precinct 2. I know I'm a little late, but how many of our wonderful 126 town meeting members are seated in their seats here tonight?
90 in person and 1 online.
Thank you so very much.
Mr. Cormier.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. John Cormier, Precinct 6. We're going to beat a dead horse with this. That amendment was put in front of us, and it was amended by Monty, and we voted Monty's amendment down. We then voted the other amendment, which had the maximum 15 members crossed out, down. Now we're voting on it again. This isn't right. We already voted the other prior amendment that had that struck out. This is not right, and we should not be allowing this amendment to move forward. We should be voting on what is in front of us right now.
Unfortunately, what's in front of us is a change. I'm sorry, Mr. Cormier. We've been running around the bush on this one. Please hold with me. We will get there pretty quickly. Okay?
Mr. Moderator, I just don't understand how we're allowing someone to reintroduce an amendment to something that was already voted down by this body.
Because town council told me it's proper. Is that sufficient?
No, it's not.
Okay. There is an amendment in front of us that would strike with a maximum 15 members attending remotely. Is there a second? Does anybody have anything new to say on this issue that we haven't said before? Ms. Warren, it better be new.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Chris Warren, Precinct 4. I think this is more of a point of information. If we don't take the 15 members out, what would we need an amendment for? Isn't it exactly what our bylaw is? And that's where I'm confused. That otherwise, isn't this exactly what our bylaw says already? What would we be amending?
Yes, you're correct. This is exactly what our bylaw says. Except now we're trying to change what goes to the state legislature by removing the 15-person limit.
So otherwise, we don't need an amendment?
We have an amendment in front of us to remove the limit of 15 people. Okay? Right. Is everybody clear on that?
Thank you.
Okay, everyone set? Anything new out there, please? Mr. Rutfield, and it damn well better be new.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Alex Rutfield, Precinct 5. It is a new question. I just want a little clarification. And considering I do support this, it might come back to bite me, but I'll try it anyway. Okay. If we keep the maximum of 15 members, and then in the future we decide to lower it to 10 or 5 or whatever, because it says maximum of 15 here, do we still need to do a new home rule petition if we want to lower it, or only if we raise it?
Well, I would ask, what do you think maximum means?
Good point. I would say, are we forced to have a maximum of 15?
No.
Okay.
Ms. Lohr, again, please, only something new.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Sharon Laurie, Precinct 3. Could we move the question, please?
Yes, we can. All those in favor of moving the question? Thank you. All those opposed? The question has been moved. All those in favor of striking with the maximum 15 members attending remotely. All those in favor? Thank you. All those opposed? The motion fails, which brings us back to the main motion. As amended. Are there any questions on what we now have in front of us?
I'm pulling it up 2 seconds.
Okay. Any questions? Seeing none? All those in favor? Thank you. All those opposed? Let's try this one again. All those in favor, raise them high. Thank you. All those opposed? Thank you. The motion as amended passes. Thank you. All right. That brings us to Article 33. Article 33 has been moved and seconded by the Ways and Means Committee, and it is as written in the warrant. It is to create an ad hoc implementation committee for the electronic voting system implementation committee. General bylaw, please.
Michelle Huntoon, general bylaw. We voted 4-0-0 on this. And so last September, we voted to create an ad hoc committee to explore the possibility of implementing, electronic voting. And they were told they had to report back to us in January. Obviously, that's not a lot of time. They did report to town meeting in January, and among their recommendations was that a joint committee should be formed, and the new committee should consider wording of a necessary bylaw change, vendor selection guidelines, cost, operating procedures and staffing, tech support, and initial and ongoing training. So obviously, there are a lot more questions that we have about whether this is even feasible. And the voting for this article is a vote to create a new volunteer committee, ad hoc committee, that has this specific implementation questions that they're trying to answer and get us more information so that we can vote on that eventually. And it gives them, I believe, 24 months. So just a longer time frame to really hash this out and bring something back to us so we can decide whether we want to try to do this. Obviously, we would need a bylaw. There would be a lot more involved, but this is just a way for us to get information, gather the information, and see what this is, what the possibilities are, one way or the other.
Thank you. Mr. Riggs, I'm going to ask you, there was that wasn't the complete recommendation of that committee, I believe. Could you refresh our memory as the chair of that committee? We need to get it all out in front of us.
Roger Riggs, Precinct 3. I was the chair of this previous ad hoc committee. Yes, I will. I believe the committee we had, well, I don't want to give the excuse that we had too short a time, but we didn't have a chance to dig into all of the issues all the way down, and we looked at a lot of vendors. There's a fair amount of cost involved. There's several alternatives between leasing and purchase and how it's staffed. You can pay people to staff the system, or you can do it yourself with your own staff. Sometimes there's volunteers. There's a bunch of issues with the remote technologies. There's options to, buy a little clicker that all of us in the room would use, and something related to the platform technology to vote. There's a fair number of options with respect to how the votes are tallied and shown on the screen, keeping the transparency of the voters and of us as town meeting members as we vote is important and required more technology on the screen. So there were quite a number of difficulties. So ultimately we were not entirely supportive of just going full bore on it, basically because of the combination of trying to keep the atmosphere of town meeting, of discussion going, which I think is quite a bit harder on a remote technology platform. Getting people to talk to each other was very important. So there's a number of downsides. I guess my summary is that this committee to look at all those issues again in detail and make detailed recommendations is probably the next step forward. My other comrades on the committee should speak up if you have something to say. Did I answer your question, moderator?
I'm not sure it did, Mr. Riggs, but that's all right.
Sorry.
Mr. Sinesi.
Rules Committee took a position on this, and Rules Committee voted 0 in favor, 6 against, with 1 abstention. In summary, I feel like there's difference of opinions or differences in how people's memories work from January town meeting when the recommendation was given by the previous ad hoc committee. And I guess part of the confusion is that I don't know how to really read Mr. Riggs's endorsement there or recommendation. What I felt like the majority of our committee, the Rules Committee, had heard at January town meeting was really a lukewarm endorsement of moving forward that had cited issues of cost and as a barrier to move forward. So I felt like in you know, the limited or the no support that this got out of Rules Committee was a reflection on we've already gone through this exercise and we didn't get a very positive feeling for what came out of the exercise previously. I just don't think town meeting is ready for this. I mean, it might be, that recommendation was so lukewarm. And I think that is what our committee played off of. Thank you.
Mr. Riggs?
Thank you. Yes, our recommendation was kind of lukewarm, but I think it was sufficiently indefinite, and I think it's up to the body to decide whether the costs and the trade-offs are worthwhile, which is why I think we would recommend going forward.
Mr. Collins?
Dan Collins, Precinct 6. I was on that previous ad hoc committee, although I'll speak for myself on this particular comment. My opinion was that it was lukewarm, mainly because we were finding that there were a lot of things that would make it really not that great of an idea, and it was partially dependent upon where we went with the hybrid scenario, which is what we just voted on. And now that we know it's going to be a maximum of 15, I think it makes it even less likely that electronic voting is going to be a good idea, because we're only going to have those 15. It'll be easy for those 15 to vote on the screen, do what they need to do. The two drawbacks in my memory of being on that committee were the cost and the fact that the time saving was not nearly as effective as you might expect it to be. Just that whole process that we just did on that last warrant article, I lost count. There had to be, 6 or 7 different votes. That might have actually, the electronic voting would have increased the amount of time that it took for us to go through that process. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Anything further? Mr. Prue. Then we'll get to Ms. Huntoon.
Mike Prue, Precinct 4. We've done the voting verbally for over 200 years. We have a hard enough time with microphones, and when we do have the Zoom, we have a hard enough time. I'm against it. I think it turns town meeting into a video game. That's my opinion.
Ms. Huntoon.
So not as my role as a committee member, so Michelle Huntoon, Precinct 1. I'm very interested in just getting more information on this. When we discussed it in our committee in bylaw review, before the ad hoc committee was created, my questions were always, how much will it cost? What will the technology look like? Like, I want that information. It will save us time. Will the costs outweigh the benefit? Like, how does that work? I don't know. I want to see more than just estimates. And also, the recommendations, yeah, they come off as lukewarm, but the #1 recommendation in the brochure is that a joint committee should be formed. So going off of that, I would ask that we investigate it further. And I'm not saying you should all vote, that we actually do it and implement it. I'm just saying that it would behoove us to take this opportunity to take advantage of volunteers who are willing to put their time and energy into it to find out more. And this is over 2 years. Technology changes, and I don't think it should be confused with hybrid meeting, because electronic voting isn't going to take us out of this room. We will all still be here. We will all still be socializing, stretching our Mirna minutes, whatever we want to do. Here, we will just have a video game in our hands to record our votes that way, rather than having to count, rather than not having a record of how people are voting unless we do a roll call. Like we had to do a stand-up vote like last week. That was an extra 15 minutes. That adds up. 15 minutes, how much is 15 minutes worth to you? I don't know. It depends. How much does this cost? So I want this to go through because I want those questions answered. I don't think there's any harm in voting for this and doing that investigation. Shutting it down now is just saying it doesn't matter what it is, I'm against it. But I think all of us, should keep an open mind and try to figure out if this is something that would work for us. And if it isn't, if in 24 months the committee comes back and says this is a horrible idea, it costs too much, we can't do it, it's not going to work, I'll vote against it then. But for now, I want these answers and I want this information.
Ms. Asher.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Kate Asher, Precinct 4. I just have a question about electronic voting systems. So somebody made a good comment about, now we know it's a maximum of 15 that might be on the screen here. And I notice sometimes we do, it seems like maybe there's a risk of missing even one vote there. So could that be not so much looking at everybody voting this way, but making sure we get everyone who's on the screen accounted for in the voting process? And if that's an obvious answer, then it's good to know. I just don't know. Is that something with a scope that would be worthy of looking into?
Ms. Asher, it's my job to make sure everybody on the screen is counted. Mr. Webb, then we'll go to Ms. Simon.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Dave Webb, Precinct 7. Question or comment? The question is, I believe in January it was asked how many surrounding towns, for instance, have tried this system and how well does it work? I know that would be part of the work of this new committee. So that's a question. The comment is, I agree with you. I don't see any reason why we couldn't do this. It's not costing us anything. And we'll get much more information that you can bring, this committee can bring before town meeting. So the question is, how many surrounding towns, what's been their experience? Thank you.
Ms. Huntoon, please.
I don't know. I was not on the committee, so that would be a question for Mr. Riggs, or if that isn't something they were able to answer, then if we vote to make this new committee, then they could definitely get us that information. But I personally am not aware of that.
Mr. Riggs, please.
Yeah, so I believe there are quite a number of towns that use it. One of the oldest ones is, I think Plymouth has been doing it for maybe as much as 10 years. But other towns, so many of the towns are not representative town meeting, they're open town meeting. And an open town meeting where you have an unknown number of voters, from 200 to 1,000 show up and you need them to vote, that's a much more effective system for them. In representative town meetings, I think Plymouth is. It's pretty effective, but it depends a lot on the voting patterns. I think Lexington is using it. I don't have a complete list, and I don't think I put that in the report, but there are quite a number of towns that use it. It is effective, in a variety of ways. We can be more specific later.
Ms. Simon.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Martha Simon, Precinct 3. I was recently at a convention with 800 people in person and about 200 people, at least 100 people online. We did electronic voting. We had even more raucous debate than this body, repeatedly over a day and a half. And the voting part took about 30 seconds each time. I I hear there's no cost to the town. I hear there's people who are willing to research it. I would like to support this idea, to find out more information and to bring it back, and then we can decide, do we want to do it based on that information? Thank you.
Mr. Glantz, then Ms. Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Nolan Glantz, Precinct 1. I think electronic voting could help a lot of things that we deal with here. For example, last town meeting, there was a vote by standing count that went one way, then the roll call actually flipped the vote. You don't really get that when everyone clicks a button at the same time. So I think there's some advantages to it. Now, of course, if it costs $10 million, we might say no thank you. All the more reason to let these people go figure out what it's going to take to implement it. And we're voting tonight not on whether to have electronic voting, but just whether to let some people go research it. So I think that's certainly a good idea.
Mr. Murphy. Oh, no, excuse me. I said I was going to Ms. Kim. Hold on. Ms. Kim, please. You don't worry, Chris, I'll get to you. Just relax, just relax.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Christine Kim, Precinct 4. I was on the Electronic Voting Committee. I was very excited to get that information, and I wanted this. I went into it wanting it, but keeping an open mind. I felt like the cost of the system was too much for what we were getting from it. But that was just my personal point of view. I support, getting more information because it's free. The issue that I had and why I voted no in Rules Committee was that it isn't just evaluating, but it added proposing changes to the general bylaws, preparing articles necessary no later than May 2026 town meeting warrant, setting up an implementation schedule, including but not limited to setting up training sessions and a launch phase meeting. I don't think we're there. I think we're at the exploratory stage, a little more in-depth than what we were able to do in the short time that we had. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Mr. Murphy. Move the question. All those in favor of moving the question? Thank you. Opposed? Clear 2/3. The question has been moved. Brings us to a vote on the article. All those in favor of the article? Thank you. All those opposed? Let's try this again. All those in favor? Thank you. All those opposed? The article passes. Which brings us to Article 34. Article 34 has been moved and seconded by the Ways and Means Committee, and it is as written in the warrant. To see if the town will vote to amend zoning bylaws to include the following language, which is all spelled out there for you there, which is essentially changing the bylaws based on a new updated 100-year floodplain map. Ms. Coleman, please.
Hi again, everyone. I'm Eileen Coleman. I'm the Conservation Administrator. I'm here to propose an amendment to Article 8, Section 8.1, the 100-year floodplain district. These are minor changes to the existing bylaw, including references to the final date of the new floodplain maps. So changes to the maps and bylaw were required for us to remain in the National Flood Insurance Program. Most homeowners insurance does not cover flood damage. Flood insurance is available through the National Flood Insurance Program. This means that for those of you who have properties that are within the 100-year or the 1% annual flood chance flood zone, you actually have the opportunity to get flood insurance. Otherwise, when something happens, you don't have anything. The National Flood Insurance Program is administered by FEMA, and it works with communities that are required to adopt the floodplain management bylaws. You actually you voted to update the floodplain bylaw last year. John Keeley presented to you and explained at that time that FEMA was undergoing a process to change the maps and had created a model bylaw, and we adapted our existing floodplain bylaw to reflect the items that were required in the bylaw. What happens is that every few years or so, FEMA updates its flood maps to better reflect current flood risks, and it does so I just wanted to give you a very quick flavor, since I've gotten a lot of questions about how the process works. Throughout most of Burlington, FEMA, with the assistance of the USGS, undertook closer examination of the floodplain elevations using more up-to-date methods. So they were looking at it with LiDAR, which can assess elevations near streams to a much greater accuracy. In part of town, they actually undertook more extensive studies like hydrologic and hydraulic studies in the Vinebrook floodplain, and they created that led to more significant changes to the mapping in that area. The model bylaw was produced, as it says, and then the mapping was resolved, comments were resolved, and a letter of determination was sent out in January 8th, 2025. The letter of determination said to us that your floodplain mapping is now complete, and you have 6 months to either adopt or make amendments to your floodplain bylaw and to adopt the maps that have now been completed. And just to let you know, floodplain development and flood insurance requirements are based on the new maps. So to sum up, the previous amendment that you voted in January of last year made some relatively significant changes to the bylaw. There were changes to format, definitions, incorporating many parts of the model bylaw. This time around, the only changes are we're removing 1 or 2 flood zones that were sort of just left there accidentally. They're not actually found in Burlington, and they're kind of from the previous go-around of definitions. We're removing a few extra addresses that just aren't needed anymore. We're adding some acronyms, like we're just calling floodplain FP, and then we're adding the dates for the final maps. And that is it.
See, zoning bylaw committee, take a position on this? Thank you, Betsy.
Betsy Hughes, interim chair of the CBRC. We voted on this. It was 5-0-1. The one against was there was a timing concern that this bylaw would be premature, as the maps would not be approved until July.
Thank you. Was there a vote on this from the planning board? Turns out we need one. We can't deal with changing zoning without a vote of the planning board.
If it helps, the planning board did vote favorably.
Did they?
I said the planning board did vote favorably.
I guess we'll have to believe you. Mr. DeBona.
I promise this is the last time I'll talk tonight. Jeff DeBona, Precinct 3. I was the no vote on ZBRC. It was 5-1-0. It wasn't an abstention, it was a no. My concerns were the maps are not in effect yet. They're not in effect till July 8th. I was asking where the urgency was, why this couldn't wait till September, and we can't see the maps. It's not in the backup, and I didn't think it was prudent to be voting on something where people can't see the maps. And there's also an error here saying this is being requested by the planning board and then not even here. So that's all.
Mr. Prue.
Mike Prue, Precinct 4. Mr. Moderator, land use voted on this as well.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Prue. Sorry. Mr. Wadilla.
Hi, Dave Wadilla, Chair of the Land Use Committee. We took a vote on this, but first we are looking for 2 new members on our committee, so if you want to have some fun, come join us. We were 6 in favor, 0 opposed, 1 abstained. Thank you.
Anything further? Seeing none, seeing nothing. So 2/3. All those in favor? Thank you. Opposed? Guess we're going to have to count. All those in favor, please stand. Forty, 43. Thank you. All those opposed, please stand. Seven? 17. There being 64 in favor, 26 opposed, it's a 2/3 vote. The article passes. Article 35 has been withdrawn, so we be done.